So starting off Kinna Vav, Kinna 6, you'll see the first word. There's a few ideas here from the Rav Soloveitchik, that he brings, which are very apropos for today. The first word you have in this Kinna is Shavas. What does Shavas mean? Similar to the idea of Shabbat or Shabbos, is it means it ceased, it ended, it's the end. Now, if you'll notice, Shavas has in Hebrew a connotation of being immediate, of being instantaneous. What happened? When the actual destruction happened, it says in the Gemara in Gittin, which explains the entire story of the destruction, that there was a mountain that was called Tur Makkah. This mountain, Tur Makkah, because it was a large mountain, people were living on one side and people were living on the other side of the mountain. When the destruction happened, it happened so quickly that one side of the mountain was in full mourning and the other side of the mountain had no idea. They were completely oblivious to the reality of the destruction, and they were living their life as usual until the news reached them. What's the point that the Rav brings out from this? Is that in general, when it comes to the Torah, if there's an idea, when it goes for the negative, it's only kal v'chomer kol shekain for the positive, which means that a Yeshua, salvation, could come instantaneously. What does that mean for today? Translating in what we're going through right now. A person who's a rational, not a paranoid person could read the news today and be very scared, especially as a Jew. Whether if it's you're following elections in England or following elections in America or following the political spectrum across the world right now, the world is starting to, anti-Semitism is rising again, which is interesting because the Rav also points out that in this Kinna, it refers to the Jewish people as Schi u'Ma'os, which basically is the famous term dirty Jew, originates all the way back. This is not something of modern times. Schi u'Ma'os means dirty and repulsive. He says in this Kinna that the enemies of the Jewish people called them dirty and repulsive. So someone could look around the world and say, it's happening again, right? It's happening even in a place like America, where all of a sudden, if someone's reading the news, you see, forget even the people that are already grown up today in their careers, look at what's going on the campuses. Look at what's going on in Israel, like you were saying. It looks almost like there's a massive internal, we're so focused on the war, we're forgetting about the internal battles that we had. So someone who's reading the news could say, what's the answer to all of these different solutions? And a rational person probably will come to the conclusion, there is no clear answer. If you want to fight the war on campus, you could do your best. What are you going to do? You're going to go and start convincing people of something which has been a reality for thousands of years, and don't be anti-Semitic, don't support Hamas. There's a university student in Columbia University or Harvard who supports Hamas. It's very unlikely you'll be able to convince them otherwise. There's a major issue. It's not just of being ignorant. It's blatant and clear anti-Semitism. If you want to try and fight the war in Israel and say, oh, how are we going to create unity? Let's say this whole war was gone and we go back already. I heard on the news one of the MKs bringing up, oh, we should bring up the justice reform, the whole thing before. He said, now's a good time. We should start talking about it again. If you want to solve the disunity in Israel, that's a whole story in itself. But the Rav says, you look at this Kinna and you see that when it comes to Yeshua Hashem, it's Keherif Ayin, which means there doesn't have to be a clear solution to any of these problems. There doesn't have to be, this is what we do. We're going to make a big fundraiser for Trump or whatever it is, and that's going to be the solution. There's no clear solution, but there doesn't have to be. He said, just like by the destruction, it was so quick, you had literally a mountain that one half of the mountain didn't know and the other half of the mountain did know, and they were living literally right next to each other. So too, you could have in one instant everything to be changed and everything to have a clear Mashiach reality. He continues in this Kinna, and he mentions the prophecy of Ben Barachia. If you go into the next, in English, he calls it a stitch. I'm not a poet, and I'm not into poetry, to be honest, so I'm not sure what it's called, but it's called a stitch. If you go into the next stitch in the second line, he says, L'chazon Ben Barachia. Who's Ben Barachia? Is like the rabbi was just talking about, is Zechariah. Zechariah, it says, has a prophecy called Od Yeshvu. This is the prophecy that we know that tells us of the future redemption. Everyone knows the famous story of Rabbi Akiva walking. It says in the Gemara in Makos. Rabbi Akiva was walking with his colleagues, and he looks in the ruins, and he sees a fox running amongst the ruins. And he starts laughing and smiling. He's overjoyed. He's so happy. So they look at him, and he looks like he's insane. Like Rabbi Akiva, he must have lost it. He must have snapped from the destruction. And he says, no, there's two prophecies. There's the prophecy of Uriah, and there's the prophecy of Zechariah. Uriah's prophecy is that there's going to be a destruction. Everything that happened is going to happen. Yerushalayim is going to be destroyed. The Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed. The Jewish people are going to be exiled. We're going to lose everything. That's the prophecy of Uriah. But then there's another prophecy, and this is the prophecy of Zechariah. And over here, there's an incredible idea from the Maharal, which on the one hand is very inspiring. On the other hand, is a little bit difficult of why this has to be the reality. But the Maharal explains this idea like this. If there's a home which is completely dilapidated, broken down, needs to be redone. When a person moves or buys such a home, it's obvious, they call it a knockdown, right? It's a knockdown. You knock it down, you build something new. This home, it's not something that could be continued to be lived in as it is. And the same with the building, the same with anything. What he's saying here is that the void that was created by these two destructions, the void that was created by this exile, was necessary in order for there to be a final redemption of Mashiach. The words the Maharal uses is that the void of exile is what creates the space for redemption. What does that mean? When you have the first temple and the second temple, if a person wants to move to the next level, they're not ready to go to a whole new reality. Mashiach, the third temple, is a whole new reality, right? It's not the same as the first two. It's a level where it says Moshe Rabbeinu, the Avos, everyone. If you look at the entire Jewish history, everything, the final dream goal is to come to Mashiach. Everything. And everything is only a stepping stone until then. They knew the first base of Mikdash, the second one. They're not the final redemption. In order to come to the final redemption, there needs to be a knockdown. There needs to be, everything is going to be swept clean. And now there is a space for a Mashiach to come. That's why, unfortunately, if you'll see the different prophecies about Mashiach, it actually predicts exactly, if you look around the world today, it's astounding. If you look around and see the prophecies that have been told of what the world will look like before Mashiach will come, it is literally word for word, verbatim, exactly the reality around us. So if there's one point of consolation, we could say it's like this. Rabbi Akiva, when he walked through, he was somebody who had the foresight and the wisdom that he was able to laugh and smile already then by the destruction when it happened, because he knew it was only a destruction in order for there to be a greater building. Now, God willing, we're holding at the end. And if we can keep this vision to know that everything that's happened and everything we've been through is that in order we can get to this third temple, in order for that we could come to this Mashiach, which the entire Jewish history has been building to, and we keep this vision together, then we could stay united, we could stay upbeat, we cannot lose ourselves, and we can have bitachon in Hashem to trust, not just emunah. Emunah is when a person says, I have faith. Emunah says, oh, I have faith, whatever it's going to be, even if it's something bad, I have emunah. Bitachon is not that. Bitachon is that I know the outcome is going to be good. I have such strong faith in God that I know the outcome is going to be good. So if we work on our bitachon together, we see the vision that has been foretold by Zechariah. The prophecy of Uriah came true, so we know for sure the prophecy of Zechariah is going to come true.
We'll say the Kinna of that Rav Mendel has spoken about now. We'll say this together. Those of you who want to join me, please do. It's the Kinna number 6152 in the art scroll. Shabbat Zul ben Shimoni Ovai, Sekiu Baos, Asimuni Bedrei Tarilai, Sakota Mishkan Miskot Dirai, Sakotai Zubru Ibovai, Savku Chafumadu Evavai, Yisila Chol Abirai, Nafla Odin Betsur Bechuya, Eini Chikta Chazon ben Derechya, Ad Vilei Gilgal Chavuya, Eini Molelem Divanit Nechuya, Asab Yicham Yikra Limchia, ונאמר לילה אני אוכיה, על פני פרץ תופצו חסדיה, על איסוף צחרה קמו יסודיה, תחת חי שילות תחף סודיה, פרצו חזירי יער איי חסידיה, פרצו מעשי אליה ונידיה, פרסה ציון בידיה, על הר ציון צדו שונאי מדני, צחקו על ראשי ציון זדוני, צמתו בנוב לעמוד זדוני, סוד נצרת לעורר לדני, צעק עמי בימי בנתיני, צדיקו אדוני, אתה כלי נכתבת עמדי אמוני, ורבת בו אליי יחדימוני, קראתי ליושבי גיבונות הם זלמוני, קולי לשמע בערים תקרמוני, קומי אמורי בתלה רימוני, קראתי למעלי הימה רימוני, למה רוח אין אפים לתך שמעו, ראית כי תנור רק חמרו, ראית כי עמל בחסתי ויח גמרו, רבת ביד יחזקאל מכל כמו מהו, ואיבן נחס ידי מכל אמרו, ואבני קיצר לי מאייך אמרו, השיבנו סיסי שכנה לדוי צייני, שיריתם רמוס חצירי להדקייני, שפתי שוברי דבר דממול הדיבני, שומעת הזמורות הפריחים ותתני, שרבו בנדו חצץ להרבייני, שרבו כי ננחני, איתם חכתה בחס ופניך, תשיב להם במורכז חזות פניך, תרדוף לצלמון יעצי על צפוניך, תיתן הבהל נוצצי פניניך, תקרא לשקרם קדוש כמוס בפיניך, תבוא כל רעתם בפניך, תבוא אל צער אשר תהילנו, למבוא חמת חימה, תהילנו, עד נחלת בכבוד הגלנו, זכינו בחור ובתולה קבע לנו, רבנה בקנה אותך כל לנו, או אדוני והיה לנו. Stop.